Welcome to Extraterrestrial Reality. Today we have some more stories from subscribers and their personal experiences with non-human intelligence. And now the first person we're going to be talking about is a woman named Sally. That's her real first name, by the way. She's from Illinois, and I actually contacted her by telephone last week on Thursday. And we talked for a little while. I talked for over an hour on the phone. I took a bunch of notes, and then over the weekend, I transferred those notes into a report, like an article, basically describing what she talked about during that conversation that we had. So Sally's been someone who's been having experiences throughout her entire life, and she's now in her 60s. And this is what I got out of talking with Sally the other day about her experiences. This is the report. I'll just going to put this report up on the screen, and we'll just go through it and talk about it as we go through it. Here we go. Sally, a resident of one of the larger cities in Illinois, said that she's always been interested in UFOs and aliens since she was a little girl, but she never knew why. Sally, who is now in her 60s, grew up in an old Victorian house in Elgin, Illinois that she believes may have been haunted. At night, she would transform her blankets into a cocoon in order to hide from something that she believed threatened her. Sometimes she would be too scared to sleep in her bedroom alone, so she would sleep on the floor of her parents' bedroom. As she grew older, she experienced night terrors and sleep paralysis, which she still sometimes experiences today. She has found that using Benadryl helps curb episodes of sleep paralysis and night terrors. Now, I just want to stop for a second to talk about sleep paralysis as well as night terrors. Now, there have been books written. I believe there was a book written by a researcher, debunker named Susan Clancy, about this topic, that she basically contends that all episodes of alien abduction could be attributed to sleep paralysis. Basically, that all these things happen in the bedroom, right? And so that's where sleep paralysis happens, when you're laying in bed trying to go to sleep, or you wake up and you find you're paralyzed because you can't move. Basically, you're having a sleep paralysis episode. I had sleep paralysis a couple of times, 2 or 3, 4 times when I was a kid. It was very, very frightening. Different experience than my alien experience. The experience that I had when I was a kid in 1977, I was completely mobile during that episode. I wasn't paralyzed whatsoever. I'm sure whatever was in the room was wishing I was paralyzed, but for whatever reason, I was not paralyzed. I was able to completely move. There was nothing holding me back. But here's the other thing. The mistake here that's made by debunkers is they say, oh yeah, it's sleep paralysis. That's all it is. Well, that doesn't explain what happens to people when they're out on the road, right? Sometimes people get abducted while they're driving along a highway by themselves. Sometimes they're at a family picnic and they walk away and they're gone for an hour and a half. Nobody knows where they are. And then they come back thinking they were only gone for 5 minutes. These kinds of things it doesn't matter where you are. You can get abducted from, it doesn't matter if you're in your room. I think that's probably the best time that this happens. I would imagine probably most times alien abductions occur would be in the bedroom, because it would be so much easier for these creatures to sneak in, knock everyone out in the house, however they do it, and then just take the victim, do whatever they're going to do to the victim, and then return the victim, and nobody knows any better. That's probably, I would imagine, that's probably their go-to way of abductions, right? In the bedroom. However, it's not limited to that. It could happen anytime, anywhere. As if you read the literature on this subject, it happens. It doesn't matter. You could be wide awake driving down the highway. Next thing you know, you're pulling off the side of the highway. You don't even realize it, and you get abducted for an hour, and you're put back on the highway driving, and you don't even realize you lost that time. Could happen in broad daylight where you're sitting in your kitchen having dinner. I've read stories like this. There's all sorts of periods of times and all sorts of circumstances that are occurring when an alien abduction happens. It's not just when someone's sleeping in their room. So sleep paralysis it's its own little animal, right? It's its own little deal, and so is alien abduction. They're two different things. When these creatures come around you, right, and somehow you're awake and you can't move and they're there, that's different than sleep paralysis. They're two different things. I think that needs to be clear. As well as night terrors. Now I was told when I was a kid that I did have night terrors a few times, right? A couple of times that my mom would say, I just went up to bed not long before. Next thing you know, I was coming downstairs, she's watching TV, her and my dad, and I'm screaming, crying my head off. And then I go back to sleep and like nothing happened. These are like nightmares like that occur usually, and you act them out. It's almost like a form of sleepwalking. You act them out, and usually it happens right after you fall asleep. It doesn't happen like late in the middle of the night or anything like that, but it does happen, and you don't remember it. But the other people around you, they'll tell you the next day, "Hey, you were scream crying in your sleep last night, but what was wrong?" And I don't know. I don't remember it. That's what a night terror is. But all of these things, right? Night terrors, sleep paralysis, they're different than what than encounters with alien beings. Alien beings have different abilities over people, I believe, and they could do it to you anytime, anywhere. It doesn't you don't have to be in bed in the middle of the night, but it seems like that's the best time. You would think it's the smartest time to try to do these things if you're an alien. Anyway, continuing with the story here. Growing up, Sally had accumulated many memories of being in a hospital and getting poked and prodded while there. When she was older, she asked her mother about the many hospital trips she went on when she was younger, and her mother said Sally was never taken to the hospital for regular examinations. So that's another thing. She was having these memories of being taken to a hospital many times, and she would tell her friends about this too. Sometimes she really thought she was being taken to the hospital all the time, but apparently she wasn't, because according to her mother, she says, we don't know, I don't even know what you're talking about. Continuing here, it says, although Sally has only vague dreamlike recollections of seeing alien beings, she now suspects that she has been the subject of alien abductions throughout her life. Before she dies, she plans to undergo hypnosis to find out if she has any suppressed memories of possible encounters. Yeah, I was talking to Sally about this too. And that's the same way I feel about it. I mean, I had my experience. I'm sure there's more there to know. I don't know if I want to relive that, but maybe before I die, I'll do it. She's afraid of hypnosis too, because she's not sure she wants to remember. But she does plan on doing it before she's gone. That's what she did say. Anyway, continuing. When she was around 16 years old, Sally had a part-time job at Kentucky Fried Chicken. One afternoon after her shift ended, she and a friend, Cindy, decided to hang out with two teenage boys they knew to smoke weed. While they were walking along a street in broad daylight, they noticed a large, red, oval-shaped object hovering in the sky with two small orbs trailing it. They watched the objects descend behind a nearby liquor store, and just as this happened, the tornado alarms sounded. Both girls thought this was strange because it was October and not tornado season. Both girls then began walking faster to get to the house where their friends lived, and when they turned a corner, they saw 2 or 3 figures, 7 to 8 feet tall and wearing what looked like silver beekeeper suits, marching toward them. The two scared girls made it to the house and told the teenage boys there what had just happened. The boys went outside and looked around and then went back inside and told the girls nobody was there. Sally said that about every 10 years, she contacts her old friend Cindy to catch up on how life is going. During the most recent call, Sally asked Cindy if she remembered that day, and Cindy recited the events just as Sally remembered them. So this was very interesting, I thought. So imagine this, you're broad daylight on some afternoon in October in 1977. She's about 16 years old. Her and her friend Cindy, they just get done working at the local Kentucky Fried Chicken, and they're walking down the street going to see these guys that they hang out with. They weren't their boyfriends. They were just two guys that they liked hanging out with. Those two guys just enjoyed smoking weed at the time, of course. And so that's what they wanted to do. They just got done working, and they hear the alarms, and they see this object floating around, and then the thing looks like it lands, right? It has two little orbs surrounding it, tailing it. Imagine this. And then the tornado alarms start going off, and they turn a corner, and then they see these 2 or 3 guys. She said they were 7 to 8 feet tall, so they couldn't have been regular old Joes out there, right? Wearing what she could only describe as beekeeper suits from the distance that they were positioned from. Right, that's what they look like, silver beekeeper suits, and they were marching right toward them, like looking at them, marching toward them down the street, scared the hell out of them. So they go running up to their friend's house, knocked on the door, hurriedly. They're let in. They tell these 2 guys, hey, this is what's going on. And the 2 guys go out in the street, and guess what? Everything's gone. There's nothing going on. They don't see anything. What was going on with that? Sometimes you hear stories like this and there's no explanation for it, but it sounds very strange. Were they people? Were they guys wearing suits, or were they some kind of alien intelligence? I guess we'll never know. Anyway, it gets stranger here. In 1984, Sally got married. Before her marriage, Sally said her sex life with her husband was hot and heavy, but soon after marriage, the sexual excitement they had for one another died down, as happens in many relationships. In late 1985 or early 1986, however, Sally was surprised to learn that she was 3 months pregnant. It was strange because she couldn't remember at the time when the pregnancy could have occurred because, again, she and her husband had almost never had sexual relations during this period. She wasn't happy about the pregnancy. I wasn't ready to be a mother, she said. One night, she went to a local bar and was drinking Cokes. Suddenly, she didn't feel well and soon went home. The next morning, she was experiencing cramps and pains and she started to bleed. She went to the hospital emergency room and a doctor examined her and told her she was having a miscarriage. The doctor, however, was puzzled after Sally evacuated from her body a placenta but no fetus. The fetus had disappeared. The doctor finally opined that Sally's body had simply absorbed the fetus during this miscarriage. Nowadays, Sally suspects the missing fetus may have been a hybrid baby put there and eventually removed by aliens. Yes. Yeah, and I think that that's probably what happened here. The doctors, they don't have any explanation, so they say, oh, it must have been absorbed in your body somehow, What are you going to do? 3 months pregnant, who knows where it went? I don't know. The placenta's there, but there's no fetus. Yeah, because the aliens took it. This is how they work. This is what they do. For one thing, she didn't think she was pregnant. She shouldn't have been pregnant. She wasn't having a strong sexual relationship with her husband at that time, and she couldn't figure out when this could have happened. But she had to accept it because she was 3 months pregnant, right? What is she going to do? She must have had sex, right? Even though she couldn't remember it. And then, all of a sudden, she's having what she thinks is a miscarriage. She goes to the hospital. Nothing's there. The fetus is gone. Gone. Where did it go? Well, if you do the research, what happens when men and women are brought on board? The sperm is taken from men, eggs are taken from women. The aliens apparently fiddle with it and add alien DNA into the mix, impregnate the woman, right, with this, and then 2-3 months later, they bring them back, and then they remove the fetus, and then they grow them themselves for the rest of the way. That's how it works. That's how it works, folks. You read the literature on this. You read books by people like Bud Hopkins, John Mack, David M. Jacobs. This is what you learn. This is what's going on. See, we don't want to talk about these kinds of things because God knows what it all means. It's just life is too complicated the way it is. And now you have this thrown at us. But guess what? This is a part of reality, apparently, because here we have another person talking about some of the things that we read about in some of these other alien abduction accounts from books by people like David M. Jacobs. Anyway, continuing here. A couple of years later, Sally became depressed because she was without a child and worried that her biological clock would run out and she would go through life without ever becoming a mother. One night, she got drunk and planned suicide by drowning herself in the bathtub, but she finally snapped out of the depression and decided to go to bed. Although Sally said she is not a religious person, as she lay in bed, she saw a vision of Jesus Christ before her. He was dressed in a robe that was sparkly and gold. The vision then spoke to Sally. Do not despair. You will have the baby girl that you want. She remembered those words exactly. That's what she said during our telephone conversation. Sally said soon after this event, in July 1988, she seduced her husband one night, and during sex, Sally felt the insemination happen. She said to her husband afterward, "You just made me pregnant." Sally was right, and so was the vision of Jesus, because in March of 1989, Sally gave birth to her daughter, Tuesday, who was born on a Wednesday. Oddly, although Sally and her husband, who is now deceased, had O-negative blood, Tuesday's blood is A-negative, which is supposed to be impossible. Sally also said her daughter has excelled in every endeavor she participated in throughout her life. She has always been a gifted student, Sally said. Everything she tried, she excels in. So there's something else to think about here. What is going on there? What is going on there? If they both had different kinds of blood, O-negative blood, but the daughter somehow has A negative blood, which isn't supposed to happen, but it did. No explanation. Anyway, continuing. Another strange incident Sally remembers is one night after a sleep paralysis event, she was scared and felt a presence, so she tried to wake her husband up, but it was like he was dead. He wouldn't wake up. Sally said it was like her husband was shut off by whatever force was interfering with her, but apparently had no interest in him. Now, you read about this sometimes, too, in some of the abduction literature, where people who aren't targets of the abduction are somehow shut off, and there's just no response for them. It's like if somebody just hit a light switch and turned them off like they're an appliance and they're just not operational at that moment. Apparently that's what happened here. And I've actually talked to somebody before who had this same kind of strange experience where people in the house just wouldn't wake up no matter what they did. No matter the screaming and holler. And actually, when I think about my own experience in 1977, screaming at the top of my lungs, but yet nobody in the house heard me. Right? There's something in the room with me, and I'm screaming at the top of my lungs for my mom, my dad, my brother who's sleeping right across the room from me, and they're just not moving. It's like they were dead. So I know what that feels like, and it's terrifying, folks. It's absolutely terrifying. Anyway, continuing. Sally, a former cigarette smoker, now uses a vape pen. One day around 3 years ago, she drove to a local store to get more vape pen cartridges. She usually parks in the back of her home, but she heard a voice out of nowhere that said, "Just park here," as she was looking for a spot. The parking spot before her was one that she never uses, but because of the voice's command, she obeyed. No sooner did she go into her house did the neighbor's oak tree collapse, destroying a fence and smashing into the spot where Sally usually parked. Where the tree fell, the car would have been totaled and I would have been dead, she said. So something alerted her to an impending disaster. If she would have parked her car in a regular spot, she might have been killed. Her car definitely would have been totaled, and she might have been killed if she wouldn't got out of it in time. So who knows? Who knows what's going on? Or are they watching over some of us too, on top of all of this? In addition to seeing the weird UFO with her friend Cindy in the late 1970s, Sally has always had dreams of seeing UFOs in the sky, along with bad dreams of trees falling. So there might be the tie-in right there for that. Her second UFO sighting occurred on the 4th of July, 1992, during a local fireworks display. Sally said she saw a silver orb sitting in the sky, unmoving during the entire event, as if it were interested in the fireworks. 3 or 4 years ago, Sally spotted another orb in the sky and managed to snap a picture of it with her cell phone. It was like a ball bearing in the sky. This was the third time in my life I've seen a UFO, she said, and I have the image on the screen right now for those who are listening. There is a image here that she submitted to me of that picture that she took of the orb in the sky just 3 or 4 years ago. Anyway, continuing here. A day after our telephone conversation, Sally sent me an email message detailing other strange encounters with apparent non-human intelligence. She wrote, "During COVID 2021-ish, when I was trying to quit smoking, one evening in the summer I could not sleep, so I decided to have a smoke on my back deck. I did not have my contact lenses in, so everything was blurry. I was standing, having a drag on my cigarette, when I saw two bodies standing together behind the garage of my rear neighbors. I would estimate it was about 60 to 80 feet away from me. I was craning my neck and straining to try to make out what they wore when I heard that voice in my head say, 'She sees us.' It immediately startled me, and I threw my cigarette in the yard and bolted into the house, hairs on my body standing on end." So that looks like it could have been another encounter with these beings that have been showing up showing themselves to her for years in UFOs, apparent alien abductions, and now she walked out in the middle of the night, and there were two of them standing there near her property behind the garage. And she also provided this one. She also provided this recollection. Another time during sleep paralysis, about a year ago, I had my eyes open, as they always are, and this was the first time I actually thought I saw something during sleep paralysis. I swear I saw a pair of eyes and a bald head about 6 inches from my face, just staring into my eyes. The head was gray, but since it was dark in my room, lit by just a nightlight, I could not be sure. Sometimes when I burst out of my sleep paralysis, I actually wake up yelling, "No, no!" At least I think I am yelling. So there you go. That's Sally's story. And it's very strange. I would have to say that there are some weird things been happening to Sally for a long time. It looks like she has been the subject of alien abduction. It looks like they impregnated her with a hybrid. I don't know what to say about the daughter that she does have. The fact that her and her husband were both O negative, but yet they have an A negative baby. That's odd. There's just a lot of weird things. And then she's been seeing things. She's been seeing crash. She has a picture that she took. She has some evidence to go along with this. Here's the thing. There's so many people out there that could tell you stories like this, and they don't. Sally's, she's okay using her first name, and that's fine. But of course, a lot of people want to, stay anonymous. They'll talk about this publicly, Some of them will just, hey, use a pseudonym. Sally's okay. You could use my first name, but whatever the case, people are afraid to talk about this publicly because they know, well, what the reaction is going to be from some people. But it really shouldn't be this way. I mean, we should want to know more about what's happening to these people because it involves all of us, doesn't it? It involves everybody. That's why everybody needs to be talking about this instead of playing these stupid games and pretending, oh, it's all, well, we don't have enough evidence at this point, blah, 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 blah. No. We have more than enough evidence, way more than enough evidence at this point. Like I said in my last previous episode, at this point, if you don't know, then you're stupid. Okay, moving on. Now, there was somebody else who sent me some stuff here, a recollection, but I don't know what this person's name is at all. I'm not even sure. I guess we're just going to call this person Pat. How's that? Pat. We'll go by that name, Pat. But I thought it was interesting nonetheless, okay? So we're going to go through this. And this is what Pat sent me. My mother and my grandfather were chased by an array of lights across a field sometime before I was born. My family moved to a more remote area further away from the city when I was around 3rd grade. Upon moving in, I began to be terrified to go to sleep and would stare at the door of my bedroom for several hours each night, fearing that someone would come in. Doesn't this sound similar? Doesn't sound similar to the story we just were talking about with Sally. She was afraid when she was a kid, too. She thought her house was haunted. Now this person's saying the same kind of stuff. They thought someone was going to come in their room. Around this time, my brother began waking up in different rooms than our bedroom. We shared a bunk bed. One morning, I woke to find him sleeping on the floor, and in his sleep he had unplugged the computer. He would often wake up on the stairs or in the living room on the couch. One night my mother and I were watching a movie and I was making popcorn, happened to glance out the window and saw out in the field by our house what appeared to be the circular spotlight pattern of a flashlight shining on blue fabric, waving around and then turning off. It scared me. Around that time period I had what seemed to be an odd dream/experience in which a creature with a face that I can't recall woke me up in the night because it hit the window, which made a sound. When I looked at the creature's face, I immediately heard a low-pitched sound, and the next thing I remember is waking up in the morning. One of the most memorable experiences was a night when I was trying to sleep, but the usual fear and staring at the doorknob was keeping me awake. The fear became quite intense, and I ended up bolting into my mother's room, yelling to her that I was terrified. She told me I needed to face my fear and made me sleep in the hallway. While trying to sleep in the hall, I heard the screen door open, the front door open, the screen door shut, and then the front door shut in sequence. I ran into my mother's room and told her what I heard. She calmed me down, and the next thing I remember is morning, waking up in the hallway. My family vacationed at a beach in Florida. On our way back, I fell asleep in the car, although I don't recall falling asleep. Upon opening my eyes, there is a spherical silver UFO already sitting dead center in my field of vision with my eyes locked onto it. I looked away, looked back, and it was gone. Later on in my life, my mother disclosed to me that she believed that she had been visited by extraterrestrials. She described several events that I will have to ask her permission to share. A similarity that I must share, however, is that she described them as being blue in color. In my experience, I have only seen grayish or grayish brown ones, and the Turkey UFO video over the water along with the Las Vegas alien are what I believe to be the only videos that capture what they look like. When they were mentioned in the video, I was shocked to find that I also find those two videos to be the most credible due to the accurate appearance of the beings. So there we go. And this is the second time now, just in recent, in the previous one when I was talking about a couple episodes ago, there was somebody who was saying that that's what they look like to him, right? They look like the creatures that you see in the Turkey UFO videos, as well as in the Las Vegas videos. The creatures that some of these people have been experiencing, that's what they look like, right? And I find that interesting. I do find it interesting. I mean, you say you're looking at the Turkey UFO aliens, right? I mean, they do look they look real. I mean, they are real. There's no question about it, actually, as far as I'm concerned, because there was experts that looked at it, at those series of videos, multiple videos, filmed over 2007, 2008, and 2009. And we see alien creatures. Not only do we see flying saucers, flying objects hovering out over the Sea of Marmara, right, in Turkey. Not only do we see that, but we see alien creatures inside the In fact, I'm gonna just say this. I do plan on doing something deeper with the Turkey UFO videos in the coming weeks and months. In fact, I've been looking at them, and I'm going to be putting together some different videos. I'm going to try to take a closer examination of inside those cockpit areas. I'm going to try to, take it step by step, do a series of videos on trying to see if there's anything else we could see. Now, of course, debunkers over the years, they're saying, "Oh, well, it's probably just a cruise ship. It's an illusion, right? It's a cruise ship." That's one of the ones that we've heard, right? And the beings that we see, right, are members of the cruise ship, perhaps. Like, I have images on the screen right now. Now on the one side there, you have an alien from the Turkey UFO. On the other side, next side by side here, that's Captain Stubing from the Love Boat. Now they don't look anything alike when you're looking at those. And here's another alien from the Turkey UFO videos, right? This is, now on one side you have an alien, right? A real non-human intelligent being. And on the other side you have Gopher from the Love Boat. As you can see, looks nothing like a person. These are aliens. Now, people that are telling you there's something else, that means they're gaslighting you. They think you're stupid enough to believe, even though you're seeing it with your own eyes, right? What a debunker will do, what a naysayer will do, what somebody who's trying to trick you will do, they'll tell you that what you're seeing is not an alien. It must be crew members from a cruise ship. That's what some debunkers try to tell you. And you could see with your own eyes that that's obviously not the case. These creatures look like something out of the Allagash incident from 1976. Remember those four young guys, Jim and Jack Weiner, Charlie Foltz, Chuck Rack, four college kids. College buddies go on a big adventure in Maine's Allagash wilderness, and then they walk into a jackpot. They try to do night fishing, and next thing you know, they're trying to race to the shore to evade this craft that's coming after them. Next thing you know, they lose time. They lose over an hour's time. There's a big fire they built is almost burned down to nothing. And then years later, over 10 years later, they all get hypnotized and they remember alien creatures taking them on a craft and doing things to them, examinations. And that's what these when I see these Turkey UFO creatures, when I see the Vegas alien creatures, that's what I'm thinking. These look like the same things that people have been reporting for decades. Anyway, this person sent me a lot of stuff. I'm not going to use all of it here, but I'm going to talk about the next thing that he sent me. He also sent me this one. This was it was all part of the same account, but there was a whole bunch of different parts to this. But we're going to talk about this next part he sent me as well. He says, "My mother and I have both had accurate predictive dreams. My dream was that I was driving down a road. I'll call it Street Road for anonymity. I worked at a pizza place delivering at the time, and Street Road was a very long road. We delivered to the first small portion of the road, but considered most of the road to be out of our delivery area as it was too far away. In the dream, I'm driving down Street Road when I am rear-ended by a police officer. I get out of the car and see that both cars are incredibly damaged. The cop gets out and points a taser at me, and I wake up. The place in the dream where the wreck happened was far outside of our delivery area. The next day I go to work, and the first delivery on screen for me is to the out-of-area part of Street Road. A new employee has mistakenly taken the order and run the customer's credit card, so per policy, as it wasn't too far out of the area, I had to take the delivery. I remembered the dream and drove slowly the entire way, more so than usual. The delivery was completed successfully to an apartment off of Street Road, and I went to exit the apartment complex in my car. I'm about to turn left toward the area where the wreck happened in my dream when suddenly a cop car flies by at well over 90 miles per hour in a 40 mile per hour zone. Good thing I had dreamt about what might have happened and decided to drive slowly the entire way, delaying my trip just enough to save me. My mother's dream was that she was at my grandma's running down the porch steps with papers in her hand, flying everywhere with her screaming. A number of days later, my mom is driving my brother and I in a truck. She says that we need to go to my grandma's so that she can print something, but that she will be quick. The e-brake in the truck didn't work. My mother goes inside. A few minutes later, the the car came out of gear. I'm still not completely sure, but I think either myself or my brother kicked it. We were young. The car began to roll backward down the very long driveway. My mother comes out with a stack of papers in her hands and runs down the porch steps screaming, papers flying everywhere. The truck hit a telephone pole, which saved our lives. One other important note is that I am not making any argument about extraterrestrials other than that I somehow developed this technique and we have also interacted with them. I have no idea what the broader picture of what they are doing looks like. Okay, so this is very interesting because just like in Sally's story, you're having some premonitions here too going on. It's almost like some people are seeing things, that potential disasters happening, and they're avoiding them before they happen. In Sally's case, it was don't park here, right? Park somewhere else. Park right here instead, right? Don't park in your old spot. In this case, it's like, okay, you had this dream getting chased, getting hit in the back by a cop. And here the next day you have this, it looks like that you just missed that opportunity. You just missed it from happening because you saw the cops taking off 90 miles per hour and you were taking a lot of caution on the ride because of that dream. So for some people, they could see the future. The aliens are giving some people the power to see the future, or they're watching them and putting this stuff into their heads. Maybe the aliens could see the future, and then they're putting that message of what might happen into these people's minds. I don't really know. I have no explanation for it. Again, this is another great reason why mainstream science needs to get involved in this. There's something going on here, folks, and it's really strange. And these are different. Again, these are from different people, right? And you see some of the similarities just in these two stories. Yeah, I just think at this point in time, we need to start taking this more seriously. And I want to say thank you to these people for reaching out and it takes time to write these up, to put these together. Like when I talked to Sally the other day, I mean, there was a lot of different questions I had. Then she actually got back to me. It took some time to write these things up, but that's fine, right? Whatever, however these stories need to get out, they need to get out. And I can't impress upon others enough. If you have a story to tell, let somebody know. Let me know. Let Preston Dennett know. Contact somebody. There's a lot of people out there doing research on this stuff, and these stories need to get out. More and more people need to know about what's going on here. You see, there's a lot of similarities between some of these stories. I mean, even in these two here, two people who have no idea, don't know each other, right? So it's very interesting to me. And it's time. It's time for the scientific community to begin to take this stuff seriously. It's that important. It's that important. Anyway, I just want to say this. I want to say thank you all for joining me today. Until next time.